All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Twins Daily Post-Game Pint. The date today is Tuesday, August 25th, 2020. Twins have fallen to the Cleveland Indians 4-2 at Progressive Field in Cleveland. And we thank you all for joining our post-game show here, the Post-Game Pint. Encourage you guys to enter the name of a Justin Bieber song. I thought that would be appropriate with Shane Bieber on the hill for Cleveland tonight, and our fearless panelists will try to work it into our conversation as a little part of our competitive aspect here. Let's get to introducing those panelists. A couple Twins Daily writers. I'm joined not just by one Matthew, but two Matthews. Not just one Matthew T, but two Matthew T's. So I think I'm going to have to go with last names as identifiers tonight, guys. You're welcome to call me Nelson if you want. My name is Nick Nelson, by the way, everyone. Matt, we'll start with Taylor. Matt, how are you doing tonight? Are you having yourself a drink? What are you up to?
How's it going, Nick? I am good. Yes, I am drinking a Troll Way from Insight Brewing tonight. It's a citrus IPA. I'm really enjoying it. It's got some grapefruit, some orangish taste I'm getting as well, but it's a nice summer IPA that I'm enjoying, so that's what I've got.
Cool. Mr. Trueblood, how are you doing tonight, man? What are you up to this evening? Are you having a beer after this Twins loss to Cleveland?
I am not. I am even more nihilistic than that. I'm drinking Arby's, just the Dr. Pepper, trying to stay awake.
Arby's? That's not a root beer, I assume?
No, it's from Arby's.
Okay, very nice. All right, so I'm going to pop up the screen share here. Let's take a look at tonight's game. Everyone who's in the chat, you're welcome to ask questions, share your thoughts. As I mentioned, you can mention the name of a Justin Bieber song. We'll see if anyone can covertly work it into their analysis for this evening. I myself am having a fresh squeezed IPA from Deschutes Brewing tonight. So the Twins were freshly squeezed themselves in a loss tonight to Cleveland. Let's see, popping over to the Baseball Savant Gamecast here. We see the Twins lose 4-2, out hit 7-6. Rich Hill with a solid outing, 5 innings, 1 run. Francisco Lindor with the big home run changed the game. He's the WPA leader for Cleveland. The Twins, offense had a struggle tonight, as we expected. We'll talk a little bit about their evening, the bullpen. But first, let's start by seeing Mr. Trueblood. What's your biggest takeaway from tonight's game here, this 4-2 loss against Cleveland?
I'll say I think as we go along here, even if he's been making the right decisions up to this point by preserving everybody and just being as careful as possible with the pitching staff, we need to see Rocco start challenging and trusting his starting pitchers just a little more. I don't even know if tonight was the crucial time to do it with Rich Hill. But when you saw the breakdown come in the middle innings tonight, now Corey Alcala wasn't going to not allow runs all season, so you just have to kind of live with that. At some point, he was going to allow runs. It happened to be in a tight spot this time. But if you'd gotten one more inning out of Kenta Maeda last night, which they easily could have done, you'd have been in a little bit better position with your bullpen tonight, and you might have been able to push through or at least, keep the game, let's say, tied, something like that going into the later innings. Then you can push a few more buttons, and you might have been able to get a win out of this. So my takeaway is, I understand why they've been very careful with this pitching staff, and obviously they're still dealing with injuries. They're going to have to continue to be somewhat careful, but I'd like to see the starters start getting that one extra inning to come back out and try and stretch things out so the bullpen isn't always shifted and sort of stretched thin.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up last night's game and Maeda not going a little deeper, because I was a bit surprised that Rich Hill was not sent out for the 6th inning tonight. He was on a roll. He struck out 4 setters, as it wasn't quite at 80 pitches yet. And yeah, I mean, with Ramirez and Lindor coming up, that's a really tough spot to throw a rookie and inexperienced into right there. And it obviously didn't work out. So, so definitely some room to discuss and analyze and pick apart that bullpen management a little bit. Mr. Taylor, what's your biggest takeaway from tonight's game? What are you walking away with from this one?
Yeah, so I've just as we were getting on, was wrestling with what my takeaway was going to be, and I think I wrestled with if I should go with Rich Hill because I think his start was really impressive. But I think my overall takeaway is just still the offense, and obviously the offense isn't going to, put up big numbers against Shane Bieber. He's a future Cy Young winner probably this year. He's an all-world pitcher, but it was just, I think it was more after the Lindor home run and the Twins were down by 2, and it just almost felt like the game was over at that point. And I know it wasn't, obviously they could have put up runs, but it just feels like you don't have the confidence in the offense that they're going to come through and put up the runs, where after that, and then you're down by a run and you need 2, that they have a good bullpen. Then, that Karinchak was going to come out, Oliver Perez facing 2 lefties. It was just going to be tough, and you just don't quite have the confidence in the offense. When last year it seemed like if the Twins were down by 5 in the 7th inning, you thought, well, they can still come through. It's the Bomba squad. We'll get a couple home runs here and come back. And you're just like, oh, geez, we're down 1. We only have 9 outs left. I don't know. So I think that's kind of my big overall takeaway, is just still the offense. A lot of it has to do with injuries, but you'd like to see just one game where they can just strut their stuff and show what they've got. And I haven't seen it in a while.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was going to be a tough one tonight, and I mean, with Bieber on the mound, and Cleveland was playing like they wanted to win this game really badly. They're using Karinchak there on a second consecutive day, which is not something we've seen very much. Really going with their top relievers. They were playing to win this one, and so I think that's actually my takeaway from tonight's game is more actually a positive. I mean, it's a bummer that they lost. But, I mean, the Twins were not running out their top squad by any means. Obviously, their lineup is diminished. No Buxton, no Donaldson, no Garver. Their bullpen was just worn out. 4 of their top 5 relievers were just unavailable, and they probably weren't going to go to Duffy until the end or maybe the 9th inning. And they still played a super competitive game, had a good chance to win. Rich Hill is not my most trusted starter. He started out pretty rough tonight and then looked, I thought, pretty good. He really settled in. So I think, you're not going to win them all. The Twins kind of gave themselves an opportunity to lose this one, knowing that Bieber was going to be starting because they were able to sneak one last night. So I feel pretty good about it, actually. They're, 20-11 now, still have a game and a half lead in the division. And they're going to go out with Barrios tomorrow. We'll have Clevenger on the other side. We'll talk about that a little bit too. So if anyone else wants to share their takeaways from the game, feel free to share them in the chat. There's a Q&A panel where you can answer your questions. And if you want to right now, you can vote on who you think had the best Twins take of the night. Matthew Taylor saying that he wants to see a little more from the offense. Matthew Trueblood mentioning that that the pitching staff management is leaving them taking out the starters early. And then I was pretty impressed. I feel good about seeing the Twins put forth a strong effort there, even with a pretty weak and diminished squad, and with Cleveland really putting the pedal down. What did you guys think, Matt Trueblood? Did you feel like I did that Cleveland really was playing like they needed this game, and the Twins were trying, but obviously kind of knew they were going in at a disadvantage, and the Twins were almost able to pull it out. They played them close and had a lead going into the later innings there.
Yeah, I think this is a game that, based on the outcome of last night's game, based, again, like you said, on the pitching matchups for tonight and tomorrow's game, felt bigger to Cleveland, and you could sense that in multiple places, not just in the fact that, they used Karinchak, but you saw a couple of pretty big, fist pumps from guys when Cleveland got big outs. You saw the passion on Francisco Lindor when he hit the go-ahead homer. That stuff will come out in any game in certain ways, but to me it seemed like the intensity was really there for Cleveland tonight. And I don't think that implies that it wasn't there for the Twins, right? They seem to bring the fire and played a pretty good game overall. But the Indians really wanted this one, and it showed up in strategic choices and just the way that they focused in the big moments. So, yeah, I think it's fair to say that there was maybe an imbalance there, and sometimes that's okay. Even in a 60-game season, there's going to be that kind of variation.
Yeah, no, for sure. Taylor, what are you thinking? I mean, I thought this was just a good baseball game tonight. I thought last night's game was a really good game. It's been very entertaining to watch these two teams play. And Cleveland was really pushing for it tonight, and they were able to come out on top. What were your thoughts on just the quality of the competition and sort of the intensity of this game?
Yeah, I think my first thought, which is sort of a bummer kind of rain on the parade thought, is just how exciting this game would have been without expanded playoffs. I feel like this game would have been absolutely massive, and we would have been hanging on every pitch. And I think I saw Baseball Reference tweeted out the playoff projections, which have both the Twins and the Indians with 95+% chance of making the playoffs, which took away a little bit from just the overall intensity of the game. So that was kind of my one thought is, man, this could have been insane if this was a, regular postseason format with the 60-game schedule. But no, I think these two teams really match up interestingly against each other. Just Cleveland's pitching with their weak bats and the Twins, and I don't know, just once it got down to the bullpens facing off each other, it was really interesting. And I think the Twins did really well, started off well against Bieber, and it was just sort of one of those scheduling losses where they ran into just a bad combination of who was available for the Twins to pitch versus who the Indians had available. And I think that flips again tomorrow with now they're not going to have Karinchak available tomorrow. Plus we have our ace in Barrios. So I think it'll flip a little bit tomorrow, but it's just really interesting. The whole series has been interesting how things are flipping and the way that managers are managing and just attacking this series.
Agreed. So Matthew Trueblood wins the first round of polling here with his take. I got 0 votes, of course. Everyone hates me. That's okay. So congratulations on that one, Matthew. Let's talk about who the player of the game was for the Twins tonight. Who do you think was sort of the most key factor and gave the Twins the best chance at a win tonight? Mr. Taylor, let's start with you.
Great. I feel like Matt Trueblood's more of the pitching guru than I am, and I like to hear him talking about pitching. So I'm going to leave him to have Rich Hill, who I'm assuming he'll go with. And I'll go with Miguel Sano, who, again, just looked really good at the plate. He took, I think it was 18 pitches and 4 plate appearances tonight, which was huge in getting to Bieber, just taking all those pitches and the Twins getting Bieber's pitch count up early and not allowing him to get through more than 6 innings was huge. You saw in the last game that he got through 8 innings, which game over if that happens, but the Twins were able to get his pitch count up, which Sano did play a key piece in. He worked 2 walks against him, and then later in the game we saw him get a bloop single that extended his hitting streak to 9 games. I think we're just seeing a star hitter who is just really finding his stride, and he's shaken off all of the rust that happened from getting a late start to the season, and just really impressive. And it's been a lot of fun watching him prove all of the doubters wrong. And I'm sure Nick Nelson was happy to see him have another good game after his Twitter interactions.
Oh, I was. I've been an advocate for Sano all along. And when he started against Bieber on July 30th, was that a little over 3 weeks ago now. He went 0 for 3, struck out swinging twice, was really overwhelmed. I think tonight was a perfect example of just how far he's come. He drew 2 walks, took great at-bats, took the best at-bats of anyone on the team, extended the hit streak to 9 games. He's just a monster right now. He's so key to this lineup. Him and Cruz are really carrying the load. I think that's a great pick. Matthew Trueblood, who's your player of the game pick for tonight?
Yeah, I will go with Rich Hill, but I agree that Sano did a great job working the count, and that was a key for the Twins tonight. Had the game bent just a little bit differently, it would have really come in, been a huge thing that they had pushed Bieber in terms of his pitch count and gotten him out after 6. Since they didn't, and since I have the chance to, I'll take Rich Hill. I thought he did a great job tonight. And we saw, an article just came out today from, Saris at The Athletic, detailing the way that the changes in the aerodynamics of the baseball, the seam height, are making it harder for pitchers to sort of calibrate and understand what movement to expect based on how they're throwing the ball. And we've seen Rich Hill sort of feel for that early this year. The ball keeps changing on him. And this is a guy who isn't able to get on the mound and get in the reps that some other guys are. And even early in the game, obviously the Indians scored in the bottom of the first, not because he was doing a lot of things wrong, but it happened. And he even looked a little rough going into the second inning. But after that, smoothed things out. I thought the command of the curveball really improved as the start went along, started embarrassing guys with that, and then being able to control that fastball at the top of the zone. A lot of encouraging things with Hill. That's one reason why I thought they could have pushed him another inning. But even though they didn't, to me, he gave the Twins a chance to win tonight, which is his job, and especially on a night when Rocco's still trying to bring him along slowly and make sure that they have everything left in the tank for him in September and October. This was a positive step for Hill, just in getting the feel for the ball, getting the feel for facing a tough lineup full of right-handers and switch hitters. And, going forward, I think we can be that much more comfortable that Hill is the guy the Twins signed him to be.
Yeah, I can't lie. I was really worried in the first inning there, just coming off his last outing. He had missed time with the shoulder fatigue. We all know his age. We all know that guys walk sort of a tight rope at this stage of their career, right? So he did not look good in his last outing. And that first inning, he was struggling. He was missing his spots big time a lot of hard hit balls. And you really started to be like, okay, well, are we in the danger zone here with Rich Hill? But to your point, he just got so much better as the game went on. He really got a feel for his curveball, and he was just crushing people with that towards the end of the outing. So that was awesome to see. Very encouraging. We'll take all the good news we can get in the rotation right now with the injuries and everything, and Homer Bailey likely being out from at least the vast majority of the remaining games. I guess, well, those are really the two kind of picks, that would be seen as a player of the game. I guess I'm going to go with Kepler. He had a huge hit there early in the game. He drew a walk. Coming out of the leadoff spot against Bieber, it's a huge spot, and he was really one of the only guys out of the big group of hitters. With Cruz and Rosario going a combined 0 for 8. Polanco wasn't able to do much. So. I'll go with Kepler. He was third in WPA for the game according to Statcast, but I realize it's not the sexiest answer. But of course, the point is the Twins didn't really have a lot going on tonight. They just got shut down by Cleveland really bringing their best. So feel free to vote for your player of the game. Matthew Taylor goes with Miguel Sano. Matthew Trueblood goes with Rich Hill, and I went with Max Kepler. I did want to say I'm not going to give him player of the game necessarily, but Chad mentions in the chat. Was happy with Jeffers behind the plate tonight. I thought he was a part of Rich Hill's success. He framed a couple pitches really nicely. The guy is impressive. The way that he's living up to the billing. There was so much talk about what a good pitch framer he is. The Twins have really worked on him with developing that, and I've heard people say he might be one of the better pitch framers in pro ball. People were saying when he was in Double-A. To me, he's really lived up to it. He had some good at bats too for an untested rookie. Mr. Trueblood, what were your thoughts on Ryan Jeffers tonight and kind of generally since he's come up? He's been getting a lot of work.
Yeah, he's living up to the billing. First of all, a guy like Hill who relies so much on spin rate, on having that pitch that shows late life in whichever direction, that's not an easy pitcher to frame. So extra kudos to Jeffers for being ready for that challenge. I agree he handled it well. Had a hit that I think it was the 7th inning. He had that 2-strike hit down the right field line. Didn't obviously end up in a rally that the Twins converted, but that's the kind of hitting that you want to see him able to do once he gets down in the count, staying engaged, having a professional at bat. So yeah, positive stuff from him. And it's encouraging to see that for however long Mitch Garver's out, they have a pretty reliable replacement here.
For sure. And of course, we've talked about Alex Avila a lot. He's looked so good. You got to be feeling pretty comfortable with the Twins catching situation right now. Mr. Taylor, you feeling pretty good about it? You liking what you've seen from Jeffers?
Yeah, for sure. And just he's not afraid of the moment. Sometimes you get guys who come up and they look like, especially for a guy like Jeffers who's never been above double A before, could be kind of a big shock to come up and fill in the shoes for Mitch Garver. But he just looks like he belongs. I think if somebody just flipped on a game and they knew nothing about what was happening, they would assume that Jeffers was a 5-year veteran who's been in the league for a while. The way that he carries himself and his stature, he seems really likable. You always see him smiling, and it just seems like all the guys like him, and I'm really happy with him on the team. And it's going to be interesting seeing the catching situation and just how things work out past this year, but let's focus on 2020 for now.
I think, they lost the game, but and the outcomes weren't great for everyone, but it's good to see guys like Jeffers and Lamont Wade Jr. and Jorge Alcala seeing these sort of high leverage spots in huge games like this. I think there's value in that long term. I see Steve asked in the chat, why not pinch hit for Wade in the eighth? I guess, there's an argument to be made for it. They don't have much of a bench right now. But I kind of like just giving these guys their shots. The Twins did not need to win this game. In fact, they probably didn't really expect to. So, Alcala, it's definitely going to be a learning experience for him. But you go out there and face two of the best hitters in the league, and it's tough. So is that kind of your perception too, Matt? Mr. Taylor, do you think there's definitely some value in getting these young guys looks and some major action like this?
Yeah, for sure. And I think they did well. Lamont Wade as well. I thought he had a strong game, even though he went over 4. I thought he put up some really good at-bats. He took some good foul balls, put up some good counts, and I thought generally looked good. I like the move with putting Wade in center field, especially in a game like today where it did seem like the Twins went into the game with the mindset of let's take really good at-bats, let's foul off some pitches, let's go deep in counts, let's try to get Bieber's pitch count up so we can get into the bullpen earlier. And I think that Wade is the perfect guy to go with if that's your strategy. He's a guy who's always going to take great at-bats. He's always going to go deep into counts. He's going to be smart up there, and he did exactly that. So I thought that was a really smart game plan by Baldelli. I thought the Twins did that really well, and I think Lamont Wade was a poster child for, a guy who did that.
Yeah, Lamont Wade went 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts, but I will say I have very little confidence that JK would have had much more success tonight, knowing how the at-bats he's been taking lately. So, and also another name to mention is Sean Poppin, who came in and took care of those last 2 innings. Very solid performance from him, and doing the bullpen a big favor by eating up those last couple innings because they were really run thin. Mr. Trueblood, do you think there's going to be – well, first of all, congratulations. You've won the Player of the Game poll with 5 votes, crushed us both. So – you're running away with the Poobah title here tonight. Do you think there's going to be some long-term benefit in letting some of these young guys get these opportunities to play some real high-level baseball here in late August?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that has to happen eventually. You can't really – it's very hard to sort of ease them in because you can't just sit and wait for a high volume of relatively easy opportunities or unimportant opportunities to face good players to come along. And this is a challenge that every team that is starting to contend consistently and intends to do so for a long time, there's a developmental challenge that comes with that. I'm very familiar with the Cubs, and their problem, I guess, starting in about 2016 or 2017 was they had a ton of these young, very talented players, guys they saw as part of their core and even part of the supporting cast for the long term, but they didn't get a lot of chance to let those guys be in uncomfortable situations, not have the platoon advantage and still get a start or still get a key plate appearance against the opposite or a same-handed reliever, or to come in a spot where you didn't necessarily expect them to succeed as a relief pitcher. Because when you're pushing to win every day, you start to lose those opportunities to develop people in the major leagues. And especially right now, when you can't have them in the minors developing as an alternative, there's no reason not to give guys chances like that, especially going back to what Taylor said earlier, with the expanded playoffs, the stakes of these games just are not as high as we thought they might have been even on the eve of the season. The Twins are going to make the playoffs. They're going to have a relatively high seed. You want that seed to be as good as possible, so you're facing the worst team possible in the first round. It still matters, but it just doesn't matter so much that you shouldn't sees an opportunity to let Lamont Wade face a tough left-hander maybe, or to bring on a Jorge Alcala and a Sean Poppin and ask them to work through trouble, either bring them into a dirty inning, or if, they've already, like Alcala had already given up the lead, you leave them in and you say, hey, shake it off and now go get more outs and prove to yourself you can just live in the moment, make your next pitch, execute. Those things all matter, and those are the little wins to find even in losses.
You're on mute.
Sorry. It's a great point. Not even being able to develop people in the minors is tough. I mean, it makes it really tough to have any kind of development taking place this year. And when you're a team like the Twins, who's got a lot of high-end talent, and really, you're not one of these non-contending teams who has the opportunity to just let the kids play. There's a balance there, and that's tough. So the Indians announced today that Mike Clevenger will be recalled to start tomorrow. I believe Adam Plutko was originally the probable there. Not a great break for the Twins. They're going to have to see Bieber and Clevenger on consecutive days. Last time they did all right against Clevenger, it was interesting that Zach Plesac was not recalled. Plesac was pitching really good this year and pitched well last year, and they basically said, we don't have room for you, which basically means you're still being punished. Clevenger, I guess, is getting a little lighter punishment, unfortunately for the Twins. Mr. Trueblood, what are you expecting to see from Clevenger? Do you think he'll be a little rusty since he's had some time off, or do you think he's going to jump right back in and be a problem tomorrow?
I don't expect him to be rusty. I think the combination of maybe pitching with a bit of a chip on his shoulder and having been at the alternate site, able to face live hitters. We talked, I think the last time I was on a post-game pint, about how facing live pitchers who are on your own team and in a simulated environment isn't necessarily good enough for batters to kind of get back into a game flow. But if he was down there throwing live BP or in a simulated game, I think for Clevenger, for a pitcher, and especially a veteran pitcher, you can sort of replace a start with a simulated start and not miss too much. He's probably going to be relatively rested, ready to go. He's a guy who thrives on adrenaline, and this is going to be, again, a big game. We see it, this sort of the same vibe as the Tribe showed tonight in terms of their urgency to win, while they're showing it just by bringing Clevenger up and starting him tomorrow against the team they're chasing. So I don't expect him to be diminished, but that doesn't mean the Twins can't get to him. They're just going to have their good game plan.
Agreed. I mean, it's tough to put two straight great solid offensive efforts against a pitcher like Clevenger, but hey, never say never. Taylor, what's your feeling about with the Twins have Jose Barrios going tomorrow, which is good news after his last start. How are you feeling about the matchup between Clevenger and Barrios tomorrow? I think if the Twins can win this game, they got to be feeling really good winning the first two series against their top division rival, with the last one coming up at Target Field. What's your vibe heading into this one?
Yeah, this is an absolutely massive start for Jose Barrios, and I think he's going to be watched very carefully by Twins fans everywhere, and I think either way where it goes, people are probably going to overreact. If he pitches a really good game, people are going to say, here he is, number one starter, first pitcher in the playoff, or for the game one of the playoffs, here he is. And if it goes poorly, it's going to be, we need an ace, whatever. But I think it's a massive spot for Barrios tomorrow. He pitched well last game against, Kansas City? But this is going to be a massive spot here. And this is what you look for in your player that you've developed, and you've gotten him to a spot where he has the upside to put up good numbers. Cleveland's a struggling lineup. Hope to see a better start from him. Against Clevenger, the Twins did well. If I remember correctly, they jumped on him right away, and then he sort of got in a bit of a groove. So would like for them to, again, jump on him early, which they've had a propensity to do so far this season. They've, typically hit well in the first and second innings of the year. I was just pulling up Twins batters against Clevenger in their careers. Luis Ariz has had success against him. He's 6 for 13 against Clevenger. And Miguel Sano has a 907 OPS against Clevenger, so maybe a couple guys to keep an eye on, especially Sano, who's been red hot, has some success against Clevenger. So a few guys to watch there, but I think if you can get 6 good innings from Barrios, now after today's game, you do have the full bullpen for your use. You have the good guys. That's why you sort of didn't take an L here, but you sort of expected an L with the opportunity to take a win tomorrow with your team ace supposedly and with your best bullpen arm. So it's going to be a really exciting game, and happy again that it's at 6 o'clock. I'm digging these 6 o'clock start times.
I know. I wish that they were more common, and I don't know why they're not. I've talked about that before. It seems like you could easily be doing that in Central Time with no fans going to the stadium, but what do I know? I see that Mike Link in the chat says, when I listen to you, I'm amazed that you seem to think the Twins expected to lose to Bieber. If we think we were going to go far in the postseason to beat the really good pitchers. I don't think they expected to lose. When you look at, they had none of their relievers available tonight. Clippard, after taking the line drive, was clearly not available. Taylor Rogers, Trevor May, Sergio Romo had all pitched on consecutive days. It's just the deck was so stacked against them in this game, and it behooves them to try to keep people fresh and try to win that game tomorrow with Barrios on the mound. I just think you gotta sort of make sacrifices and move your chips where you can in a situation like this. It's crazy to see the bullpen getting run so thin with so many guys on it, but we're in the middle of a really long stretch, and the Twins have been taking some injuries. So. Did any of you guys manage to work a Justin Bieber song in your responses? I think we only got a couple because I said never say never at some point, but I think there are only a couple in there. I don't know how many people actually know Justin Bieber songs.
I missed him in the chat. I must have signed on late.
Okay, it might have been lost in my gargled bad internet earlier. All right, well I'm gonna launch the poll, and if I don't win this one, I know you guys are just out to get me. Jeez. And this is
in here. Yeah.
Purely a pity win too, by the way, since Mr. Trueblood's already wrapped up the poobah tonight. Cool. Well, another question in the chat was regarding, why don't, if the Twins want to develop some of their players and their prospects like we were talking about earlier, why not call up a guy like Kirilloff as opposed to having Wade and Cave up? There's obviously a lot of playing time available in the outfield. I think there's a valid point to be made there. I think they're just going with experience. With guys like Cave and Lamont who've been up and done it. But it kind of brings me to another thing. We're talking, there's all these left-handed bats that we're talking about bringing into the mix. Mr. Trueblood, I know you've got a post coming up, I think tomorrow on Twins Daily about some right-handed bats that the Twins might target in trades. Do you want to tease that a little bit, or maybe throw one out there that might be a little intriguing here with the trade deadline less than a week away?
Sure. Yeah, I think all three of the ones that I'm writing about, that I've already written about, and we'll get it up there when we can, are pretty interesting. There's been a lot of talk that because of the weirdness of the season, because of sort of the strange dynamics, especially financial dynamics at play, that we're going to have a quiet deadline, and that's probably true. But there's also been this idea that the expanded playoffs eliminated all sort of supply in the marketplace for trades. And I do think there are a little bit better players out there than people are realizing. Just some of them aren't quite name brand. That said, one of the guys I wrote about for today was Donovan Solano out in San Francisco. He's a former Marlin who disappeared from the majors altogether for a couple of years, resurfaced with the rebuilding Giants last year, and it was really easy to write him off. And everyone sort of did, even as he had a very strong 2019 in about a half a season. And this year, he's close to the top of the National League in batting average. And he's a right-handed hitter who makes plenty of contact, not a ton of power, but kind of a Luis Arias profile where he's going to make a lot of contact, and he's going to consistently find grass with the ball. It's not fluky hits. He genuinely has a BABIP skill. Plus, he can play all over the infield for you. And this is a guy who's still got a year of team control beyond this year, too. So if the Twins see that profile, like sort of having a mirror option for Arias as a backup and a platoon partner for Arias, and as insurance at shortstop and at third base, maybe even letting Marwin Gonzalez move to the outfield some, Solano could be a really attractive target and kind of under the radar. It's not going to cost you an arm and a leg, but it could be a huge upgrade, especially over, as you mentioned earlier, Nick, right now the bench with guys like Ray Adrianza, especially, you just don't trust Adrianza in any important situation Solano would take Adrianza's role, but be much, much better at it. There are a couple other interesting names in that piece coming up. So,
all right, make sure to check that out. It's going to be good stuff. Matthew, Mr. Trueblood, also wrote recently on the site about what was the pitcher that you were breaking down in your most recent piece? It was Rogers, right?
Taylor Rogers, yeah.
So make sure to check that out. And Matthew Taylor had a piece about Rogers place in the bullpen pecking order the other day as well. That is worth checking out. Taylor, what is your feeling about with the deadline coming up here? Do you think I like that idea from the other Matt there of getting a right-handed bat for the infield? I like the idea of being able to use Marwin in the outfield a little more because that would give you that right-handed bat to put out there. And I think Marwin's a pretty good outfielder. Actually, he's got a great arm. Are there any kind of moves you want to see here with the deadline coming up? Do you think that it would behoove them to go get a right-handed bat or maybe some bullpen help?
Yeah, I have two thoughts. One of them is not as much about trade, but I've just been clamoring for calling up Brent Rooker. I think having a right-fielded corner outfielder would be really helpful. I know there's a 40-man roster crunch, but I feel like you can make it happen, whether it's by trade to get rid of somebody on the 40-man or if you DFA somebody like Adrianza, if Donaldson's close to coming back, something like that. I think he could be a good move. Today on Twitter, I was spitballing trading for Jonathan Scope, who sounds kind of funny, but he also crushes left-handed pitching. He has like a 917 OPS over the last 2 years against left-handed pitching. He's a good defensive second baseman. He doesn't have much traditional. Yeah, he had a grand slam tonight, which is funny because last season he was awful. He was 0 for 8 in bases loaded situations, so that was a little bit humorous. So I think he's in just a 1-year deal, so it would cost probably next to nothing to get, but who knows what his thoughts would be coming back to Minnesota where he lost out on a lot of playing time. But those are sort of my two thoughts. And then just quick, the other thing, I just saw that Lucas Giolito threw a no-hitter, so.
Whoa, okay. Oh,
I knew he was
awesome.
working on it. Jeez, yeah.
Congratulations.
So it only
Congratulations to Giolito and the White Sox. All right, well, that means that the White Sox won again. They're nipping at the Twins' heels, as is Cleveland, both now back within a game and a half of the Twins. Yeah, I mean, I think you guys both make a good point in kind of looking at someone who might be able to provide some depth at second base. From everything that we're hearing, it just sounds like Luis Arias, this kind of on and off, taking days off frequently, is going to be par for the course. Sounds like it's a maintenance thing. This knee is not going to get better on its own. It's not going to get operated on. So, he's pretty clearly not moving that well out there. So I think having someone, a legitimate bat and player you could put in there at second on a more regular basis would help this team a lot. One thing that I find myself really bummed out about is that Nick Gordon is not available this year. I mean, he had a long COVID battle, I guess, and might still be in it. I don't, Seth, I think you're on the chat here. You might know a little bit more about that than I and what his current situation is. Hopefully, I mean, I hope he's not still having symptoms because he was like 2 months ago. But he was. Okay. Oh, great news. Great news. I mean, this would be a huge opportunity for him to come up and show his stuff. He had a solid year last year, and he's kind of at that make or break point in his career. So, yeah, I'm proud to say that I did win the final poll because I was the only one who submitted anything. So I'm pretty sure that's my first point I've ever won in these contests. Thank you for all who voted for me. But our post-game poobah for the night is Matthew Trueblood, who brought it with his analysis. Even if he wasn't able to work in a Justin Bieber reference, that's A-okay.
It would have helped so much if I knew any Justin Bieber songs.
Matthew, I want to get one more take from you here before we go. I know you're a big dissector of pitching, and I assume you watched Barrios' last outing and the way he was able to turn things around. What do you think was sort of key to his really stepping it up in that last game, and what does he need to do to have success against Cleveland tomorrow?
Yeah, well, a much better dissector of pitching. Parker Hageman pointed this out on Twitter. Barrios got back to the third base side of the rubber, or not even necessarily back to. It's not somewhere that he's pitched from very often in the past, but they moved him over all the way to the third base side because he's made some mechanical adjustments this year that had him more in kind of a straight line to the plate, whereas in the past he was very much a crossfire guy, like very, very much a crossfire guy. I think he's getting close to achieving the best of both worlds in a kind of sustainable way, where if he's way over on the third base side, doing what he does now, he's still going to be able to generate that excellent velocity and the extra life on his stuff that we've seen this year. But he may be better able to control it, and he'll certainly be more deceptive to opposing hitters, especially righties, but really with his movement profile, even to lefties, if he's creating that steep sort of horizontal angle, getting over to the third base side. So that was the big adjustment I saw in this last outing. I hope that that's here to stay, although I know that they're still talking about moving him around on the rubber a little bit. But it's a big deal for him to have the right alignment and create the right sort of array of angles to opposing hitters. When he's doing that, he is filthy.
Well, I hope to see it again. Jose has definitely had some memorable outings against the Cleveland Indians. Last year on opening day, he spun a gem in a victory. The year before that, of course, the Puerto Rico game was a very memorable one. So a big spot tomorrow against Clevenger and a chance to win the series. So I think it'll be a great game. We'll be back with the post-game pint after tomorrow's game around 9 o'clock again, thankfully, because it's another early start. Earlier start anyways. So I'll be on with, I believe Jeremy Nygaard and Andrew Thayers are the guests for tomorrow. So you can always go to postgamepint.com, find a link to the next episode. You'll be able to watch back tonight's episode or any previous nights if you ever miss it. Steve Pincus has really good insights and info from you all. A winning post-game pint lineup. That's nice to hear after the Twins loss. Mike, thank you very much for the nice job. Any final words, Matthew Taylor? What's your final thought on the game, and what are you taking in tomorrow?
No, I agree with you, Nick. I think for a loss, that's about as encouraging of a loss as you can have. Just knowing where the team is, the injuries that are there, how depleted the bullpen was. I think having a solid start from Rich Hill was really promising. Things went the other way that we could be talking about. Have we seen the last of Rich Hill? What are we going to do now? We only have 2 starting pitchers, but I think we have Rich Hill. We have a really good bullpen. We have a lineup that will seemingly come back healthy at some point before the postseason, and this team has about the same record as where they were last year. So I think there's a lot to be excited about. I think tomorrow is going to be an extremely exciting game, and can't wait to watch it.
I can't wait either. Thank you very much, Mr. Taylor. Our post-game poobah, you get the last word. What's your final takeaway? What are you taking into tomorrow's Barrios-Clevenger matchup?
Well, now that we as a group, because we didn't necessarily anticipate the Twins winning tonight, maybe we've overstated the extent to which they didn't expect to win tonight. Maybe we should be careful about talking about special urgency on the Cleveland side and downplaying it on the Minnesota side. Tomorrow, we should see both teams locked and loaded, ready to bring it, having starters that they consider, if not their aces, then at least their co-aces. And although Karinchak may not be available for Cleveland, you're going to see both managers pushing whatever buttons they can to get that win. So this is the one where we can say these teams are on equal footing, and we want to see the Twins get a win just because it proves that they really are the superior team, and they can start hopefully widening that gap as the season rolls along.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be a great game. The Twins should have their bullpen at full strength, such as it is right now. Hoping to get some guys back. I really want to see Cody Stashak come back. They could use him. His absence is felt right now. And will Clippard be available tomorrow? Possibly. According to Dick Bramer, he told Rocco Baldelli he felt like he could pitch today, which is kind of amazing. But if they're not putting him on the IL, they got to figure that he's going to be, available within the next couple days. So we'll see. But should be a great game tomorrow. We'll be back for the postgame pint. Thank you to everyone who attended. Huge thank you to both Matthews for joining me tonight and lending their awesome insights. And I hope everyone enjoys their Tuesday night. Go Twins.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.